Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Sunburst Sunday Meditation Service. My name is Greg, and today the topic is the power of conscious association. Before I get started, let me just give you an idea of the pattern of today's service. So I'll be giving a brief talk about conscious association, and then we'll follow up with a brief period of group meditation together. And I will have, after that meditation, a few final thoughts about the topic of the day. And then we'll close with a song. So Brother Norm, the founder of Sunburst, had a vision early on of the Temple of Khephren in Egypt, in which he was taken to the foot of the pyramid and then suddenly found him inside the pyramid in a small room that contained a large monolith. As the sunlight penetrated the air shaft, it illuminated the monolith, and on that monolith was the cosmogonic diagram carved into it. And as Norm studied that diagram, a voice came and said, "This is the moment. You and yours are the custodians of this image." Now, this image, the cosmogonic diagram, we still use. You'll see it on our website. You'll see it in our literature. You'll see it on posters. You'll find it in the bookstore. It basically tells the whole story of creation and our path back towards our Creator. So we've talked about this a few weeks ago. We talked about these 12 scallops around the great central sun being the 12 virtues, and each of those virtues is assigned to an astrological month. And then this colorful area here we call the Eightfold Path, or the Rainbow Path, and it is a series of conscious behaviors that allow us to reach self-realization and illumination in a speedier period of time. So conscious association, what we're talking about today, is one of these colors on this Eightfold Path. And I'm going to just go out on a limb here. I'm going to say that conscious association is the whole purpose of why Sunburst exists. Let me explain that. In the 1930s, Yogananda began talking about the possibility of developing world brotherhood colonies, places where like-minded people could live, work, meditate, pray, play together with other like-minded people. And the first experiment with this took place in 1947, I believe, when he established the World Brotherhood Colony at Encinitas. Immediately, because this was in the last 4 years of his life, immediately there began to be some problems in Encinitas. And Yogananda's time was being divided between Mount Washington and Encinitas to solve these issues. And the issues involved monastics and householders or families living together in the same proximity and attempting to work and together. And it was difficult. And at that time, Yogananda still had some major projects he needed to finish, and he knew he was not long for the earth. And he needed to finish the 2-volume set on the Bhagavad Gita. And so he basically dropped the Encinitas colony idea, but in those last 4 years, he talked to his disciples constantly about this idea and actually began to prepare some of his disciples to go out and do it themselves when the time was right. So as I said, Yogananda began to envision in the 1930s the idea of world brotherhood colonies. He wrote in East West Magazine that he envisioned little group models of ideal civilizations. In his early description of these World Brotherhood colonies, he said this in his own words: "Take the best advice I can give you. Gather together those of you who share high ideals. Pool your resources. Buy land out in the country. A simple life will bring you inner freedom. Harmony with nature will bring you a happiness known to few city dwellers." And here's the epitome of what conscious association is all about. He said, "In the company of other truth seekers, you will find it easier to meditate and think of God." He goes on, "What is the need for all the luxuries which people surround themselves? Most of what they have, they're paying for on an installment plan. Their debts are a source of unending worry for them. Even people whose luxuries have been paid off are not free. Attachment makes them slaves. They consider themselves freer for their possessions and don't see how, in turn, their possessions now possess them." And then he added to this thought, "The day will come when this colony idea will spread through the world like wildfire." Some of Yogananda's disciples were actually being groomed for this very purpose. Brother Norm was told on a number of occasions by Yogananda that he envisioned a Santa Barbara center, and that he encouraged Norm to return to Santa Barbara. But the world was not ready for this in the 1940s and the 1950s. It took until the 1960s, the change in energy in the world, the beginning of the age of Aquarius, all the new freedoms and freedom of thought that was happening at that time was ripe for living communally. So Swami Kriyananda left SRF and in 1968 opened the Ananda Center for Self-Realization in Nevada City. And that became the first successful World Brotherhood colony. Norman Paulsen, the founder of Sunburst, in 1969 came to Santa Barbara and began the Brotherhood of the Sun, or Sunburst Brotherhood, or Sunburst Sanctuary, the different names that we've gone by over the years. In 1970, Oliver Black started Song of the Morning and was later joined by another Yogananda disciple, Bob Raymer, who together founded Clearlight Community in Vanderbilt, Michigan, which is part of Song of the Morning today. In 2000, Michael and Ann Gornick, former Ananda members, formed Polestar Gardens on the Big Island in Hawaii. After an active volcano damaged their property, many of the members left Hawaii, and they've started a new colony in Fort Collins, Colorado, and that should be ready to open to the public later this year. So what do these World Brotherhood colonies that I'm talking about have to do with conscious association? They have everything to do with it. As Yogananda had written, "In the company of other truth seekers, you will find it easier to meditate and think of God." The people with whom we associate are extremely important on our own spiritual path. Many of the great leaders in our spiritual path have had things to say about this. Yogananda taught, "The company one keeps determines to a greater extent whether his energy will move inward toward God or outward towards the world. Good company is essential on the spiritual path." Yogananda went on to say, "Environment is stronger than willpower. If you want to be spiritual, seek good company and don't mix with those with bad habits that may wrongly influence you." And Brother Norm wrote this, Spiritual athletes traveling on the rainbow path homeward would choose the right environment in which to live and work. There's a story that's told of Ananda. Ananda was the greatest disciple of the Buddha. And Ananda came to Buddha one day with a question, and he asked the Buddha, he said, isn't good company, isn't good association, having good friends, half the spiritual path? And Buddha replied, no, Ananda. Having good friends isn't half of the spiritual path. Having good friends is the whole of the spiritual path. Environment is stronger than willpower. In other words, where we live, how we live, and who we live with determines who we become in a greater way than our own individual willpower or desires. It's difficult in this modern world to continue to move upward on the spiritual path, but it's next to impossible if we have associations that are actually dragging us downward and moving us away from a path of virtue. Years ago, as a new Kriyaban to Sunburst, I suddenly had a new extended family and many new friends. That has become very important to me over the years. When I arrived at Sunburst, I was worldly, materialistic, easy to anger. I enjoyed gossip, sarcasm, and judging others around me. I became very close friends with one of the brothers here at Sunburst. And we would have great times together, but I began to notice that when our conversation turned negative, and it turned to one of those non-virtuous traits I just mentioned, that my friend would get quiet and he wouldn't respond. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've made this guy mad. I better watch what I'm saying. And I began to realize that he wasn't angry. He had just made a conscious decision not to get involved in any energy that would pull him downward. Now, over time, I realized that it was better for me to avoid those energies that pulled me downward, and I have changed as a result of that companionship, that friendship, that conscious association that I had with this brother. And I can say today, without any kind of exaggeration, that this brother and my association with him has changed my life. That is the power of conscious association. So what can we do to practice conscious association? I have a couple of suggestions. Number one, develop friendships with like-minded people. Where do you find like-minded people? Well, first of all, you'll find them here at Sunburst. If you've been here before and you're watching this video, this is where you'll find like-minded people. And our purpose is to bring people together from all walks of life and to allow them to step on the spiritual path and then aid them in any way we can to move forward on that path. So with that idea that you have friends here, that you have people that will lift you up at Sunburst, I would suggest, number two, that you visit Sunburst frequently, as often as you can, that you partake in our retreats and our trainings, that you come for our social events. It's very important for not only you, but for us also, that we commingle our energies so that we can all advance on the spiritual path with greater speed and greater success. The third thing is if you live far away from Sunburst and can't visit here that often, consider starting a meditation group in your area with like-minded people. Now, if you have friends that you think would be worthy of a meditation group and they don't have a meditation training, bring them here for our Kriya training and let them learn about the different types of meditation that they can partake of and use in their spiritual seeking. Sunburst will be happy to support you in helping you to develop your own local meditation group. The fourth thing is support our Sunburst YouTube channel and tell your friends about it. This is a way that you can gather around you friends of like mind. And that would be sharing the things that are important to you. And many of the every Sunday talks that are on YouTube could have a major effect on your friends. Fifth, join our morning and evening Zoom meditations. They happen Monday through Friday, and there's a Tuesday evening Zoom meditation, and you can join other like-minded people there and strengthen your resolve to move forward on the spiritual path. So let's participate right now in an act of conscious association and meditate together as friends for a few minutes. Yogananda said of group meditations that meditating together increases the degree of self-realization of each member of the group by the law of invisible vibratory exchange of group magnetism. So basically, we're all affecting each other in a positive way in group meditation. He went on to say, group meditation is a castle that protects the new spiritual aspirant as well as veteran meditators. Meditating together increases the degree of self-realization of each member of the group. I well remember Sri Yukteswar's advice when I went to him for training. He said, meditate with good companions. They will help you churn the butter of self-realization from the milk of your mind. Milk mixes with the waters of worldly delusion and cannot float above them, but the butter readily afloats above those treacherous waters. So let's go ahead and go into our quiet time. I would ask you to find a comfortable seat. If you're in a chair or on the floor, make sure that your back is not touching anything. Release all the tension in your body parts. Take maybe a couple of deep breaths, or tense all your muscles and release them, and just feel relaxed. Close your eyes and focus on a spot about 6 to 10 inches out from your body, from your eyes, from your forehead, so that your eyes are not crossed, but focusing directly on your finger. This is about where I can do that, so this is where I'm going to close my eyes, and that's the spot that I would focus on. Secondly, watch your breath. And as you slowly inhale and slowly exhale, just on a regular breathing, nothing extra with your breathing. And if you have a technique already, a meditation technique, go ahead and use that now. If you don't have a meditation technique, you can learn that here at Sunburst in October in our Kriya Meditation Retreat. So join me now in meditation. So, welcome back from meditation. I'd like to share a brief story that illustrates conscious association. The story is about two parrots that lived in a banyan tree. And these two parrots lived in their nest with two young parrots, which they took good care of. One morning, while the adult parrots were out gathering food for the day, a cruel hunter came by and stole the young parrots out of the nest and took them away. One of the parrots managed to escape and flee the hunter. He ended up at a monastery and grew up listening to kind words and compassion. The other parrot was put in a cage by the hunter and began to learn crude words and crude phrases from the cruel hunter and his family. One day a traveler was resting outside the hunter's home. Sensing someone was outside, the parrot said, "Hey, fool, why are you here? Leave now or I'll cut your throat." Scared, the traveler left in a hurry and soon arrived at the monastery where the other parrot was living. The parrot said to the traveler, "Welcome, traveler. You're free to stay here as long as you want." Surprised, the traveler told the parrot that he had encountered a similar parrot that looked an awful lot like him in another place, and it was very cruel. And then he asked, "Why are you so kind?" And the parrot replied, "Oh, that must be my brother. You see, I live with holy men, and my brother lives with cruel hunters. I learned the language of holy men, and my brother learned the hunter's language. The company we keep decides who we will be." I know it's a story about two birds, but that story to me illustrates that moral perfectly, and that is the company we keep decides who we'll be. This past year, this past 16 months, has been very difficult with this world pandemic. And isolation and loneliness have been very major issues for people. Forget conscious association. Most of us as humans are just craving human contact in a very basic form. No man is an island. There's very few people that can live in a Himalayan cave for years at a time by themselves. Most of us are not wired to live that way. We crave time with family and friends. If you're new to the spiritual path and you found yourself moving away from friends who are not in tune with you, don't worry. Friends may not come at first, but as you meditate and work at positive, creative jobs, those of like mind will be attracted to you and you to them. There's a magnetism to living in virtue. There's a magnetism to living the Eightfold Path. And that magnetism will draw friends to you so that you have conscious association in your life. And let us not forget that our greatest friendship, our greatest friend is our divine parents. Develop that friendship through prayer, through meditation, through your behavior, and you will never be alone. Thank you for joining us here today. Blessings to you all. I hope this finds you healthy and in good spirits, and at least no longer lonely. Namaste, my friends. Namaste.
is all I want this day, to see your face, to hear your voice, to feel your touch, to know your love is all I want this day, to see your face, to hear your voice, to feel your touch, to know your love is all I want this day, to see your face, to hear your voice, to feel your touch, to know your love is all I want this day, to see your face, to hear your voice, to feel your touch, to know your love is all I want this day, to see your face, to hear your voice, to feel your touch, to know your love is all I want this day, to see your face, to hear your voice, to feel your touch, to know your love is all I want this day.